Hello and welcome to this combat guide. Today we're going to dive deep into combat, giving beginners and advanced players a lot of tips and tricks and information that's going to help them with this game. I have been studying this game a lot and I want to share everything I've learned because there's a bunch and I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I've been enjoying it. So should be something that's going to take you to the next level as a player in your journey in Rise of the Ronin. So appreciate you guys. Feel free to subscribe and make sure you check out my second channel that has the Let's Play and other guides as well. So there's a little bit of both for you to pay attention to. Now, let's get into it. First thing I want to talk about is understanding yourself, right? Know yourself. This is the number one thing in all martial arts, in all the teachings in the world. The best teachings always teach you to know yourself. And the reason why that's important is because you're going to be able to actually take it to the next level in your playstyle. Once you do that, you should be fine. You're going to be really advancing as a player. Okay. So what am I talking about? Well, guess what? The weapon that you use is going to determine the way you should play. It's not vice versa. Literally, that's the system. So take a moment and actually figure out, say, okay, this is my play style. This is what I like to do. This is how I'm good at this game. All right. So that's number one. And we're going to do some demonstrations and show you guys a couple of key things and go into the game. Right now, you're looking at my character and my beautiful Ronin. I think it's the best creation I've ever made in any video game. Yeah, that's how I feel. All right, so depending on the weapon you have will determine everything. And we're going to take a look at the weapons and just talk very quickly to give you an example. Katana, it's kind of like the balanced weapon, right? But if I pull out a great sword, for example, I switched over to this. This is going to take a lot of discipline to not spam attacks. And in this game, you shouldn't spam any attacks anyways, right? It's not exactly the best idea to do so. So play smart, take your time, figure it out, right? But the point is, there's way too many people who will come in here thinking that they can do anything that they want. If I have a great sword, my attacks are not so fast. As you can see, charging up for that last hit, and it's pretty intensive compared to the rest. So I want to be able to understand, okay, this is a whole different playstyle. So with the sword, I can go in there and spam a little bit, right? And we're fine. But with this, you want to be able to be more defensive. Okay. And me, I'm an aggressive player, but even though I'm telling you to be defensive, I have to be defensive regardless, because the way the system works in this game is countering and being able to get someone's stamina down is going to help you in the fights way more than anything else. We're going to talk about that a little later, but the point is don't always just spam attacks. And if you have a heavy weapon, you definitely don't want to spam attacks until you have the right opportunity. Okay. And so that's key. And then we're going to get into a couple of variations when it comes to combat and things that you need to learn. So there are multiple stances. As you can see, there's the high stance, mediums, and then low. Okay. All of the different stances are very useful, but only on specific enemies and different play styles. And you got to look, see what works on who. Okay. And so you're going to watch me right now, and I have this a little bit on slow motion so you can pay attention closely. You pay attention to the guy that I'm currently about to fight. He has a blue arrow, and most of these guys that I'm going to switch over to also have blue arrows. And that's because the high stance with this weapon is gonna give me the advantage. Okay. But now if you pay attention when the boss comes around, and he's the guy that's pulling up right now, and I switch over to him, he actually has neutral. There's 3 different things that you can have on your weapon. Neutral means you're not going to do too much damage, but you're not going to do less damage. So it's pretty much decent. And you always want to be in neutral or in advanced, so you can switch those different stances to have the advantage, or at least be in neutral. Okay. And so the only thing you're going to do is just switch the stance to be able to have the advantage. And you're watching this gentleman here trying to take advantage of me, but I'm using the counter spark, which we'll get into in a minute. But the point is, that's the first thing you want to pay attention to. It's going to be very helpful in your fights. If you're fighting and you're not paying attention to that, you're going to be striking the whole time and wondering why you're not doing so much damage. And oh my God, he doesn't die. Well, it's your fault because you didn't check to see if you had the advantage. Okay, that's number one. Number one. There's a lot more to get into when it comes to advantages. On top of switching stances, you actually have martial arts within the stances. Okay, and I am going to turn the camera on, the controller on. You can see everything that I'm pressing as well as hearing me talk about it. So switching stances is easy. R1 and the right stick. So that is cool. You can do it mid attack and kind of create a better flow to your attacks. You need to. I don't recommend it as much. Stances too many times, only when you need it. But you can do some good combos and you'll be able to really get crazy with it. And we'll have some videos about that type of thing in the near future. But I mainly want to focus on giving you the fundamentals. But yeah, so having that is important. Knowing that every time you're fighting, your combos change depending on the stances. You can see this is my stance for medium. And then when I switch it to high, I have this attack. Okay. Pretty good. Pretty good. And if I go to low, and so there you go. So depending on what stance you do, you can do different attacks normally. But what's cool is they all have martial arts. If I hit R1 and triangle, he's doing these flips, this aerial attack, which is amazing. And then if I push square, he does that. And then X for this, okay? And I'm just going to switch the stance from low to high. We're going to do the exact same buttons, R1 and triangle. That's what I got there. And I got this spin attack. And I got this, all 3 of those. And again, you can have 4 for each stance. Right now, I'm still unlocking things for this playthrough. As you can see, here goes the charge attack and a nice spin attack. And these are all different depending on the stance that I'm using. And why this is important is because you want to be able to utilize what's best for you. I actually really love this aerial attack, and I tend to use it a ton when I'm surrounded. Kind of just get myself away from them and just jump attack whoever I'm attacking. A fun way to play. And there's a bunch of ways to go about putting on the right play style for yourself, switching out something that's going to work to enter in a fight. For example, I like using this attack here. Get super aggressive on somebody. They're charging towards me. I'm charging towards them. I can do this attack. So pay attention to what stances you're using and what attacks they have on them when it comes to the martial arts and in general with the combinations, because that's going to change everything. Okay? Super important. Very, very important to do that. And now, before we get into another deeper layer of combat, I want to take a moment to help you understand I can swap out anything I want. As you can see right now, I have only 6, which is a lot. But the point is, that is the beginning. What I could do in this game, being able to swap. And I can put on 2 of the same type of stances, but they will have most likely different martial arts and different elements. And so you want to be able to put on what is necessary for you and go from there. Okay. And I want to stop at that part right there to help you understand there's plenty of things you can do to unlock it. Playing through the story is going to unlock stuff. For example, this right here is pretty much a main story mission. And get a brand new paired sword, which is one of my favorite weapons, combat style. This is going to be very vital for my playstyle. And I can keep going down a list and looking through bond missions. Bond missions are important because the bonds that you create will let you unlock new weapons, combat styles, and more. As you can see right here, I'm going to get a ton of combat styles with him. And I'm kind of friendly with him. I'm about to get into the friendly stage and start unlocking all of that. Same thing with the other guys. Nice yawn during the video. But this is super critical and important because you're going to be able to go into the map and just look for any of those bond missions. Talk to somebody and say, hey, I want to help you guys. What are you doing? Let's do this. And there's specific missions that are just called bond missions, and they're going to unlock specific things for you as you go. So pay attention to that. Just get it going. And this is pretty early on in the story. The first 4 hours, 5 hours, you'll unlock this, and then you'll be good to go to start doing those missions to get everything you might need within the combat styles. For example, my katana, without trying, I got all of those combat styles for that specific weapon, which it's not the weapon I'm going to be using for the most part right now. But yeah, it's in the game and you're capable of doing some great things because of that. And then again, just picking your playstyle is super critical. It's something I want to keep stressing. I promise it's going to help big time once you pick the style you like. For example, polearm to me is one of my favorites, and it's basically like a staff. Once I unlock all the combat styles, I'm going to have me a good old time because you can see right here that I have a good way to attack AoE. And then this one is more of an escape from an attack and then smash down on somebody. So it can be very, very useful. I love this type of fighting style in this weapon. So very, very cool. And I absolutely love it. Now, before we continue into a little more of demonstrations, I wanted to talk about a few things that are on these weapons that are going to help you with your combat styles. You can see right here, this one's afflicted enemies, dealing damage that have status effects on them. So this is going to buff me. And this is important when you're making your build. Okay, your combat style is one thing and all the stuff I talked about, but this type of thing and synergizing different pieces, it's going to help you drastically. And I want to take a moment outside of the weapons and go into the armor because you can do the same thing with the armor. You can see right here, this specific piece of gear, when I put on multiple pieces, I'm going to be able to unlock affliction wave, and then attack up and different things like that. Main one I want is this one. So all I got to do is put on a second piece, and then I'm going to activate this and do a lot more damage to enemies with element on them. So elemental damage is going to be critical. And so this is a key part to your playstyle and what you can do. And as you can see right here, I have the equipped on fire, but it doesn't have to be fire. You can put poison, which is another good one. Those two are really big right now. They really, really debuff the enemies a ton. And just to give you an example, I am going to switch over to katana, and I'm just going to tap my D-pad so that I can get this flames on. And now I have extra damage. I'm going to afflict damage onto the enemy as well. And it's just going to be amazing. Okay? So being able to understand this system, putting it into your game, you're going to see benefits big time as you go forward. Just kind of take a moment and take that into consideration. Now, another big tip is picking the important buffs. And there's a lot of them. We're not going to go through every single one on this video. Just more just the combat scenarios, but you want to buff everything you can that's going to help make you stronger. And so a lot of the strength area has some really good stuff like critical hits and things like that. You're going to be able to get your martial arts over higher and all of that, depending on what you like to do. You have it all right here. Okay. So take a moment to do that. Now we're going to go into a couple of demonstrations because I want to give you guys a little bit of a guide on this as well. Again, this is going to start getting a little more advanced for those beginners. You don't know the combat system. We're going to go through it very shortly, but it's not going to be the way you think. Okay, so we have our normal attacks, we have our martial arts, we did all of those. And now I just want to spam some attacks on this guy. I'm going to do something. Instead of just finishing off with my combo, I want to swap out my weapon. And I can do an attack while I do that. And then keep doing combo. Right? And do the same thing again. And I can basically infinite that as long as my stamina's up. Okay? So being able to know how to do that and use it to your advantage, it's going to be a very critical thing. Going to help for those players that want to be advanced. Just practice that. And like I told you guys, in this dojo, you're going to be picking up very good things that are going to help you drastically. But with that dojo, it comes practice, because there's plenty of good things in there to help you along the way. But that's the number one tip as far as advance. As I do a combo, I'm switching over, and then I'm just continuing my attacks that way. And it's just a good way to continue a combo and keep the pressure on somebody from attacking you. Sometimes you want to be aggressive. Okay. So that is super key. Mix up some of your shooting. You have also a bunch of different things that you can use in the game. So super important. Now, last but not least, make sure you sub and you check out the next video. We appreciate you out here. Peace.